On the plantation outside Charleston, where his family has lived for 8 generations since 1672, Norwood Hasty was asked if he thinks slavery was immoral.
No, I don't. Because when a slave came from Africa, he couldn't speak the language. He was totally untrained to do any job at all that would fit in with the civilization. Someone had to take care of him. Someone had to take care of him 24 hours a day. And it's pretty hard to do that unless you owned a person. So I think slavery just had to be in those early days.
Mr. Hasty, what was life like in those early days?
As far as the colored people were concerned, I feel that they were a good bit happier than they are now. They had less in the way of material things. But I can remember back in the 20s when I was a small boy, they were always singing at their work. They had a great sense of humor. And now today, they just don't seem to care much about that as they used to. And I think they've lost their sense of humor somewhat, which I deplore.
What do you think are the differences between the races?
I think there's a refusal to accept responsibility. I think there's a lack of motivation. I've tried here to promote people to foremen, superintendents, but they just refuse to do it. They just don't want the responsibility. They don't worry like the white man. If they have troubles, they go to sleep and wake up the next morning, and that trouble is over.
Is it possible that white people have something to do with the lack of ability for blacks to assimilate into this culture?
Absolutely. The white man has certainly been prejudiced and to quite an extent unfair. But customs die awful hard. It takes a long time, and everyone knew years ago that the Negro would have to be given equality. But in the South, knowing Negroes as we think we do, we realize it would take time. It's been compared to straightening teeth. It takes a slow, steady pressure. You can't do it with a hammer. And white people's attitudes will change in time. I'm a lot more liberal than I was 5 years ago, and I know I'll be a lot more liberal 5 years from now, and I think almost everyone else is in that category.
What has tended to make you more liberal?
Well, realization that the Negro is a human being like anyone else.
Mr. Hasty, what did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet. Something, or rather someone, we had to take care of, because we had to do so much of their thinking for them. We had to do almost everything for them except living their own lives. Anything outside, we had to do for them.
If masters did the thinking for slaves, it is not recorded who did the thinking for masters. Most Southerners didn't even own slaves, but they became victims of the glamour surrounding big plantations. Today, there is talk of equality in the future, but it is the romance of the unequal past that still infatuates and torments much of Charleston. For blacks, that past is a little thin on romance.
It is true that in a home like this one, Scarlett O'Hara might have lived. And a home like this might have contained an overseer like Simon Legree. But it is an absolute certainty that if I had been around in those days, I would have lived right here. And that, for an increasing number of black Americans today, is what American history is all about.
When they reached America, slaves found auction blocks waiting for them. Any slave could be sold at any time. Slave markets were very effective socially. They broke up the black family. But even if you were a commodity, you remembered the last time you saw your mother. A slave described his own sale in 1858.
My brothers and sisters were bit off first, while my mother, paralyzed by grief, held me by the hand. Her turn came, and she was bought by Isaac Riley. Then I was offered to the assembly of purchasers. My mother pushed through the crowd to the spot where Riley was standing. She fell at his feet, entreating him to buy her baby as well as herself and spare her one child at least. Will it, can it be believed that this man was capable of disengaging himself from her with such violent blows and kicks as to reduce her to creeping out of his reach? I was then 5 years old.
If you could, would you paint a picture for us of what it was like on the plantation in your early days?
It was a lovely, happy time, living in open spaces with many lovely colored people and animals and flowers and fields. My father had everything thoroughbred, from the pigs, horses, the dogs, and the people had to be thoroughbred. And we would get into a buggy with him and drive to the plantation from what we call the pine land where we lived. And we would spend, every Saturday this was, and we would spend the day in old Fortune, I can see him now, would give us dinner, and we would have a heavenly time. And old April, he was the dairyman. That's all he did. All he did was to skim the cream over these great big bowls of clabber and put them in the wooden churn and churn this marvelous fresh butter. That was April's job. He didn't do anything else but love us and skim the cream.
The Southern white man just loves to say that, oh, our Negroes are happy. They like it. They like the way things are. If other people would just leave them alone, there wouldn't be any problem. And some, I think, really believed it. And I think that that's one thing perhaps just sort of thrown them off balance when all of a sudden their Negroes just weren't behaving the way they thought they ought to behave. You were just a doormat. And that's where the good relations came in. As long as you're a doormat, we have wonderful relations. They just felt that until recently, relations between the Negroes and white were just so very good. Just wonderful relations. It's outside agitators. And yet, it never occurs to them that they were good on whose terms? On their terms.
Slaves began running away in the 1600s. But the principal method of escape wasn't formed until the 1800s. It was called the Underground Railroad, though the journey was usually on foot. Harriet Tubman, the railroad's outstanding conductor, would walk innocently past a plantation, singing "Steal Away to Jesus," and the slaves would literally steal away to Philadelphia or Boston. Wherever there was slavery, there was also resistance. The revolutionary movement among blacks began long before the Spirit of '76. Until 1800, slavery was legal in the North. New York City had a massive slave insurrection in 1712. There were at least 250 recorded slave revolts in America. The most effective insurrection was led by Nat Turner in Virginia in 1831. Turner and his fellow revolutionaries killed 60 white people before they themselves were captured and executed by state and federal troops. The South was terrified. Owners decided they had better be protected from their property. Slave laws became more severe. In 1850, Congress lent the South a hand by passing the Fugitive Slave Law, allowing Southerners to come north to reclaim their runaways. But resistance had its own momentum, too. It was articulated fiercely and with finality in the famous appeal by David Walker, a free black man living in the North.
I ask one question here. Can our condition be any worse? Had you not rather be killed than to be a slave to a tyrant who takes the life of your mother, wife, and dear little children? I speak, Americans, for your own good. We must and shall be free in spite of you. You may do your best to keep us in wretchedness and misery, but God will deliver us from under you. And woe, woe will it be unto you if we have to obtain our freedom by fighting. Throw away your fears and prejudices, and we will love you more than we do now hate you. What a happy country this will be if the whites will only listen.
On the site of an old church in Charleston, the most daring of all slave revolt was planned by a freed slave named Denmark Vesey. With 9,000 supporters, Vesey intended to capture the entire city of Charleston, but he was betrayed by a house slave. The Reverend Henry Butler inspires his congregation to be proud that slavery was met by insurrection.
So Denmark Vesey, an anti-slavery leader of 1767, 1822, he was an insurrectionist, so they tell me. He organized an unsuccessful slave revolt here in Charleston, South Carolina. He and 34 other Negro conspirators, so they call them, were hanged. But it was here on this spot in a little old wooden structure downstairs that Denmark Vesey planned his insurrection. And then as now, some of the people could not keep a secret, and I can sympathize because our forefathers were taught not to keep anything secret from the master. And there was a servant who told the master of Denmark Vesey's insurrection and of his plan. And of course the plans were broken up. And then South Carolina passed a law closing all schools and daring Negroes to be caught reading, and this place was closed. When we think of those that were hanged, those that were persecuted, those that were killed, those that have had hose and water poured on them, those that have had bloodhounds on their trail, those that have been mistreated, and in the midst of it all, somehow they stood up because they had a spiritual backbone that caused them to look beyond the temporary things of life. If we are to move in this new day, we cannot have backbones like a jellyfish. What is man? Man is a part of God. Each man is a thought of God. Each man is entitled to be recognized, and we trust that in the future we will not have to do what our fathers had to do, but if necessary, we have to do what is to be done.
The white man is my oppressor. He's the one that controls the jail, he controls the hospital, he controls the army, he controls the Navy, he controls everything. And he's the man that I have to fight. White America's got to wake up and realize and listen and understand that not only black folk got to make sacrifices, but white folks gonna have to start making sacrifices. Some sacrifices to make this country what it's supposed to be. Other than that, there's not gonna be no country.
I work hard, he work hard.
I worked hard. I get up at 4 o'clock and get my breakfast done. Just at dawn of day, I go to the field and we pick cotton.
Mr. and Mrs. Haywood Jenkins of Sharkey County, Mississippi have, between them, picked cotton for over a century.
My boss man came along. He says, Mary Jane? I said, sir. Says, I say, when you wash? I said, I washed last night. He said, I don't want you to do that no more. That's my agent, you know. He says, every Friday morning or Friday evening, you wash. And let all the children stay there with you until you get through. When you get through, then y'all can go back to the field and wait. Now, the agents was mean, some of them. Some of them was mean. They wanted to whoop the colored people. And that time, the white man come along. He says, hey, but you ain't in the field yet? He just had started plowing. He said, yes, I've just not had to eat my dinner. God damn it, you ain't doing a goddamn thing. Says, God damn it, I ought to take this damn stick and frail the hell out you. He said, no, he said, if you frail the hell out of me, goddamn, I frail the hell out of you. It makes me feel bad if I was under them, you know, how mean they was to treat us like that.
From when I saw my mother and father and my brothers do while I was growing up, I feel that I don't want any of my kids to go in a world like this, because I know some days I saw my mother slaving from 6 in the morning in hot sun, 100-degree weather, from pulling a hoe in a field from 6 until night, with about an hour's break between us all this time. And my father doing labor that machines wouldn't even be made to do hardly. Doing labor that bad. And I feel that if we've been working this long and can't even on the shirts on our back, I feel that we have to take some drastic steps to make something happen, to make a change come about, because Mississippi is going to either have to change or there can be no more Mississippi. And we have to do this in any means as possible. Through our parents, we've earned Mississippi. It's no question about it, brother. I mean, if my mother got there and sweated from morning until night, and you tell me I don't own anything she sweated on, I mean, how can that be? How can it be?
The white man does not want to give over his institutions, and that's what people fear that would happen. You just don't want to turn over the reins of everything and give up control. Who wants to give up control?
Halfway out. Okay, guys, get in the car. Let's go.
So white supremacy is undoubtedly a feeling that white people have all over the world. Of course, how the black man and the white man would live together has been the paramount concern of people ever since the Mississippi Valley was settled, especially when the greatest number were the black people.
In Mississippi, white control has made the past hard to distinguish from the present. More than anyone else, the spirit of resistance to this control has been Fannie Lou Hamer. At the 1964 Democratic Convention, Mrs. Hamer was a leader of the attempt to unseat the regular Democratic delegation from Mississippi.
Mississippi is still a very rough place. You know, people is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, you know, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. You know, they can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this lead me to say, you know, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, you know, by a black man, and then, my God, you know, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
Well, bigotry means that you believe in a creed, a cultural stem of life, a way of life, and this I do believe in. I believe that we have communities here we've developed in our country that we have to protect, and I believe a community way of life has been developed for 75 years, and I don't believe it should be broken up. And I think that this is the way we'll have to fight for it from now on in. It's going to be a community life versus those that want to come into it, and that's going to be rough. And if this means racism, it's going to be practiced on both sides.
So you're a practicing bigot, then?
I'm a practicing bigot. I believe in my way of life.
As far as I'm concerned, things are getting worse in America. I haven't seen where American did nothing for the black people. What have American did? Is there a few Negro who had higher position, a higher job? That's still not helping the grassroots. I'm in the grassroots. My little brothers around here are in the grassroots. My sister is living in the grassroots. She's still living in the grassroots. As a young black man, I feel that I have an obligation to my race of people. not to no other race or no other nationality, just to black people.
The problem that we have in white America is that most white people, when they hear about white racism, most white people say, man, that's not me. I never discriminated against anybody. Never did. And in their sense of what discrimination means or what racism is, they may be right. But they sit residing in a system from which they take full benefit, a system that defines them in and defines black people out. We are going to have to face the fact that we are not a community. A community is where a lot of people develop mutually beneficial relationships with each other. And our racist institutions and the political boundaries of our cities define black people out of the community. White people sit in their suburban homes and watch their television programs and hear about all of these laws that are being passed. Many of them are beginning to wonder, well, what is it with those colored people down there? Why are they so upset, all this wonderful stuff that we're doing for them? But we aren't focusing on the black man living on the block. He lives in a two-flat on that block, and he knows what the circumstance on that block was 10 years ago. And he knows what it is today, and he, too, has heard about all of those programs and laws being passed. But the hard fact of the matter is that things are not changing for him. It's no wonder that the white population and the black population are pitted against each other when the black man knows that the change is not coming, and the white man thinks that major efforts are being undertaken when they are not. So I don't think anybody should be surprised when one sees the black people in an open attack on the system, because I suspect that they don't see that there is any other realistic alternative.
What Denmark Vesey did in Charleston, South Carolina is very much related to Detroit and to Watts and to Newark. It is very much related to black men saying, tanks be damned, I'll have my freedom. The price of freedom is not cheap. Denmark Vesey was very mindful of this. So it's very important for us, the lessons of Denmark Vesey. A lot of us like to think that the effective thing is to woof at the man, to get up and blow our whole game to him. That somehow the revolution will come through oratory. The unique thing about Vesey is that he was a quiet man, which is often a mark of determination. Yes, sister?
How come this wasn't taught in our school?
I think that this is a very good question, why it is that Denmark Vesey doesn't stand beside Patrick Henry. Because they've never wanted us to come to the kind of position and the state of mind that those of us who are gathered around this table have come. Because Denmark Vesey released in his time, as he has done for us now, a whole force of black resistance and struggle. We have not been able to talk about, because they're nameless and faceless, the thousands of black people who fought in a more quiet way. Those black women who consigned to cook in the kitchens of the slave master, who ground up glass to very fine bits and put it in the master's soup. And then asked the master, what's the matter, boss? You seem like you're not well. And the white man was tricked by his own notion that our people were just silly, as he bled internally to death. As well as the brothers in the field who set fire to the cotton. The brothers who set fire to the cotton when the master came with his whip and said, boy, what's going on? I don't know, master. Something's taking place strange. And the brother went on to burn more cotton. Black people have resisted, who have determined here today that we are going to free our people. Denmark Vesey is alive. Denmark Vesey is alive, and among the brothers be they in Oakland, California with the Black Panthers. Denmark Vesey is a young black man named Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton in Oakland, California. Denmark Vesey is personified by the courageous black brother named H. Rap Brown. Denmark Vesey is the guiding light that inspires and gives incentive to Brother Stokely Carmichael. Denmark Vesey was the father of Brother Malcolm X. Denmark Vesey walks the streets of the black community today. He is in the minds and the bosoms of young black men who stride now with pride and dignity in the black community, who say that they will no longer reside in the hell of the ghetto, but will struggle to transform their plight to a community. They will do it or die trying.
It is normal for an oppressed people to revolt, and it is abnormal, really, for them to accept the oppression which is forced upon them. Any oppressed people, when they revolt really in the ultimate sense, even in the name of their oppressors, because they're reestablishing reciprocity between man and man, and they're reestablishing the bounds of humanity which must govern men if they're to live together in a common climate. I just ask you to visualize a room, you know, in which there are all the goodies of the world, all the material goodies of the world. And there are people in that room, and all those people are white, you see. And the door to that room is locked, and that room is in a building with a hall. And in that hall are people, and all those people are black. Now, black people have been standing in that hall for more than 200 years, knocking on that door. And they've been saying, please let us in. You know, we want to be with you. We want to be like you. We love you. And that door has never opened. One of the men in the hall say, you know what I think I'll do? Say, I think I will go outside, get me a brick, throw it through the window, and take some of my things out of that window, because he's never going to open the front door. And another man in that hall says that, no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going outside, I'm going under the house, I'm going to take me a match, and I'm going to burn that house up, and everything in it, including me. And then a third man says that, wait, brothers, you know, might become necessary to do that, but it's not become necessary yet. Said the problem is we've been standing here for 200 years knocking on that door, and he hasn't opened the door because we haven't been speaking his language. So his mother tongue is power. And that perhaps if we take all our little toothpicks of power and put them together and create a whole huge battering ram, then the door will open one way or another. I think history arranged that eventually America would have to face itself through black people or go under. And I deeply believe that this is the point we occupy now in time.